Hey guys, I want to take a few minutes and talk to you about real quick gel mediums and texture pastes and all that good stuff, because it seems to freak some people out and it really couldn't be any simpler. And so I'll just take a couple minutes to talk to you about it today. So first, let's start with the gel mediums, okay? Golden, Liquitex, and then Claudine Helmuth Studio. This one's probably my go-to. It comes in gloss and it comes in matte. You can also find it in trial size sampler, which I think is really cool, especially if you're not sure if you're going to like it or not. So multimedium is a gloss medium. When would you use, let's start with the matte finish. When would you use that? I used it earlier on my blog this summer to do image transfers, okay? It's matte finish, which means all the different products, the distress inks, the ink pad stains, anything is still going to work on it because it's got that matte finish, so it basically just disappears, okay? Versus the glossy, you do the glossy and you've got a high shine, like this one here. And the red is actually, that dark red is the last color applied on this project. And the reason the dark red didn't take the entire project over is because I had used this glossy gel medium, and what that'll do is once dry, it is high shine. So if you've ever used something like Glossy Accents, or if you've ever seen those resist papers like from Heidi Swapp or Tim Holtz that have like the shiny design on them and then you can color them and the color doesn't like to stick to the design, same idea here, because the gloss, a lot of mediums don't stick to glossy surfaces. Think of it as, like, would you be able to use a distress ink on a piece of plastic? No, it's gonna like bead up and fall off and all that kind of thing. So to do it, you could use anything you wanted. Personally, probably my most used thing for glossy gel mediums is to get out a stencil, and you just want to make sure you're holding it down. And lately I've been liking popsicle sticks for applying this, and get your pattern down, okay? Or whatever it is you want to. Now you're going to want to wash off your stencil. And obviously stencils are not the only thing you can do with gloss medium. I've been liking my popsicle stick lately because I can scrape off all the excess back into the jar. You can see I need a new jar. And keep on going. Then you're going to need to let this dry. And in most cases, using a heat tool or something to accelerate it really isn't going to work all that well for you. Now, if you don't have gloss medium and you're thinking, okay, well, I wish I could do a technique like this, is there anything else I can use? Something like Glossy Accents could work. The problem with Glossy Accents is it won't, generally speaking, it's too loose. It's too liquid, so if you tried to apply it with a stencil, it's going to get under the stencil, it's going to go all over the place. I've not had a lot of success with that. And I'm going to try to speed dry this a little bit. Normally I would tell you, set it aside, let it dry, don't mess with it. Now with the gel mediums, if you wanted kind of a translucent color, because they do dry clear, if you wanted a translucent color, you could add mist or ink or paint. Well, paint would take away the translucent nature because paint is, generally speaking, not sheer. But if you used a liquid color or an ink with it, you could colorize it. Okay, I'm going to let that set aside and dry for a few more minutes. So we'll come back to that. And in the meantime, let's talk about paste. Paste freaks a lot of people out, and I'm not entirely sure why, but I'll try to debunk the scariness of paste here. So I'm collecting my personal collection of pastes here. Okay, bottom line, any one of these could substitute for any of the rest. I mean, that's just the truth. There was a sale on Liquitex texture gels. Okay, and so I picked these up, and they're kind of fun. Both of these have a little more texture to them, a little more grit to them than straight up molding paste. Sometimes you can see lightweight molding paste or heavyweight molding paste, or like I found this stuff in tubes, and it says use with acrylic paint. I generally don't. I just use it wherever I want it. You know how it gets with my crafting. I just do whatever. But bottom line with all the paste stuff, the differences are going to be, number one, even though it's super white, if you apply it thin enough, it will be, I'll call it semi-opaque, because there will be, if you apply it thin enough, you will still see colors through, okay? And if you really want it to be not at all see-through, I would add a color to it. You could add an ink to it. You could add paint to it. I think it's really great with paint. Though personally, I want a nice thick paint. I'll put a little bit of this in a container along with a little bit of mist or a little bit of ink or something like that and mix up my own. Okay, in fact, I'll do that for you right now just to show you. So any of these, molding paste, modeling paste, doesn't matter what they call it, it's all about the same. Think of it as kind of like peanut butter, kind of like crafty peanut butter, okay? Only you're just using it to add texture, to add dimension to a spot, just to add a different look. Now you could use distress stain. You could get some distress stain going in here. If I was going to do that, I would probably take the distress stain and push it onto the bottom there before I started putting paste in there so I didn't taint that. I'm going to use a re-inker and make a couple drops here and make us some colorful paste. I love making colorful paste because you know what? All I need, and by the way, you could do this with plain white acrylic paint too. It just won't be, it might not have quite as much body. It might not stick or stay up quite as well. But I can mix up my own paste colors, okay? And that's, to me, that's a lot of fun. And in fact, here's an example. I just took this tag paint and I just left it totally plain. I set down this stencil and I put the hot pink paste, smeared it right over the top and let it totally dry. Once it was totally dry, I just took a blue distress stain in Tumble Glass, rubbed it on there, and the blue is only really showing up below because it was a much more vivid pink. The one thing I will tell you is that this pink was a much brighter pink before I applied the blue over. So something to remember is that the pastes are matte finish and they will take on a bit of color when you're working with them versus the glossy stuff like glossy accents or glossy gel mediums that stuff really does not stick to them. So one other tip I want to tell you for this is that you could do it as I'm doing it. You could also mix more than one ink or more than one color to custom blend and get your own color of paste, or as I said before, get your own color of paint going. And you can see that when I apply this to the stencil and all over my tag, there was some inconsistency in here of color, but once I get this on here and really get it blending in, it all pretty much works out, and I just have so much fun with this stuff. So, and there, boom, that was easy, right? That wasn't anything scary. So where would you use this? Well, I think it's really great to start the background of a card or to do on a piece of cardstock that you will then turn into a card or an accent on another page or project. So this would work well onto a canvas, onto layouts, cards, tags, whatever you want to work on. Now my example here is not quite dry, and well, a few of them are dry, a few of them are not. But I'm going to see what happens here. I'm going to spray some Dylusions in melted chocolate just to show you, just because I want to show you. See? You see how that already, it just pops right up. So you can see what happens, okay? And you can get really clever with this. I think this is great for mixed media projects. I actually do this sometimes on my layouts for it's kind of more of a background technique. If you notice that it's also resisting here, I've got some acrylic paint there that particular mist doesn't really like to stick to. But you can see there what that does, and there's so much potential for it, so much possibilities. And the bottom line, though, with the paste, with the gel mediums, don't overthink it, okay? It's really not a tough thing or a tricky thing. It really is, just think of it as a different kind of paint to use, okay? It could be thicker, it can be thicker, it can help you do various techniques or add texture and do different things that regular paint wouldn't let you do, but ultimately it's just a simple tool and another option if you're wanting to get a little more funk in your next craft project. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to watch the blog. I'll put up some supply lists and links on the how-to for this up on the blog. And of course, in future, you may see projects from me doing this, and now you'll know exactly what I'm doing and how easy it really is. Happy crafting!